Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Success Thursday, the big question of the week. This week with Steve Martin. Hey, Steve. Welcome back.
Let's go. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me back. It's been a wonderful week.
It's been a blast. And there's still 2 episodes to go. All right, let's dive into this. We'll talk about success in a minute, Steve. But first, share with us, what's your favorite Agile retrospective format and why?
You know, Vasco, I don't have a single favorite. Obviously, it's very, very helpful and valuable to be keeping the energy of the retrospective, to be adapting it and changing it often so that your teams are not getting bored with the same format. But for me, I think the key is broader to ensure a successful retrospective is to focus on not just the retrospective, but the after part of the retrospective.
What do you mean by that?
What happens after? And I always tell my mentees, I always tell my mentees that it is not the retrospective that is the success of the retrospective. That is the ownership and accountability where you take improvements after the session, bring them into the sprint so that you get ownership of that. And in fact, make it a user story even, right? So that you've got, this is the problem. This is how we're going to solve it. And this is how we're going to measure the impact. And you then have that all the way through your sprint. And at the end of the sprint, even bring it into the demo so that you have accountability, so that the person who has the ownership of solving the problem is on the hook for bringing it into the demo and showcasing what improvement has been made, so that the team can see exactly how they're improving. They're seeing the results in terms of measures. But there's there's a culture of continuous improvement. So it doesn't just become theater, retrospective. We just go through the motions. We do, Easter retrospective with eggs for Post-it notes and all sorts, which are fun. But we need to really think about how do we make sure that we take those improvements and implement them.
Are there any tips, like any things that you have applied or you help your mentees with that helps to focus on that post-retro action taking and ownership taking, making a difference, I guess we could call it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the key, again, is ownership, and it's collective ownership. I always talk about this as that it's not just the single owner. Just because your name is on the ticket, the team have the ownership of that improvement, right? So, I could give you a few examples of some of the things that have worked with teams in the past. Basically impediments that are ongoing, doing some root cause analysis, and then presenting those changes and improvements at the end of the sprint in the demo. But as I say, the key is a cultural one. And so the sorts of things that must happen is that the team themselves actually want to bring those improvements in. It's not the Scrum Master's responsibility to ensure that it happens as much as it is the team themselves bringing it in as well.
So one of the things that I think about when specifically considering the retrospective theater, like you just talked about, which is kind of running the retrospective just to run it and then not really taking any actions. I'm thinking that one of the possible reasons for that is that we end up discussing a lot of things that are either completely outside the ownership of the team, right? Like we can talk about it, but we can't do anything about it. That would be one possible reason. And then the second reason is that there's an expectation that Scrum Masters are the ones that need to solve all of the impediments. And I would be the first to say that, yes, Scrum Masters should definitely solve impediments, but not be the only ones. And definitely not to the point where they would remove the ownership of how the team works from the team. So when you think about that, like how are you helping teams to realize that some stuff is outside our control? We can list it, but let's not worry too much about it. When we can raise it and so on, but there's not much we can do it. Let's pick something we can work on right now. How do you help teams kind of acknowledge that and maybe even exercise their ownership muscle? Maybe we could call it that way.
Well, ownership muscle is a great way of doing it. I'm going to take that away with me. So going back to your point, we're talking about escalations, right? If the team have an improvement or a problem that they need solving that sits outside of the team, that is beyond their capability, that it's either at leadership level or it's another team that is impeding, then the problem isn't the fact that the team can't solve it. The problem is that there is no system in place for them to be able to escalate it, for them to be able to make it visible on another board or another leadership team, part of the operation, not a something that people come up with in the retrospective and then just sits on a Miro board. We need to make sure that it is taken upon us, and this is all about having one collective ownership spirit, culture, where it's not just the team, it's the leadership, it's the different product teams within a value stream. Perhaps everybody is pulling in one direction. I have a problem over here on this side. Hey, I've got the same problem over here on another side, right? On my team. So let's get together and let's try and collectively work through it. Okay.
I think that's a great tip to find some peers in pain and use that allegiance to foster some motivation and energy. All right, but we do all of this because we want teams to succeed. But before we can do that, we need to define what is our role in that. So, Steve, how do you define success for yourself as a Scrum Master?
Well, I think this is one of the big problems that has been for many years, is actually being able to not just define success, but be able to really shout it, to be able to shout it from the rooftops. Like, I have done some great things, and this is how I measure it, right? This is what, and something that's a big gap. It's like we tell anecdotally, we give a good story potentially, like in interviews or amongst our peers, but having sort of tangible evidence, being really, being able to really highlight exactly how you've made an improvement, how you've transformed a team or an organization through measures. OKRs is an amazing way of being able to define that. OKRs historically are very poorly written and implemented, usually in a dark room, right? With a like head of product in a dark room, putting them together and then cascading them downwards. So you see some really poorly put together OKRs. Actually, OKRs need to be done collectively with the team, with stakeholders, with end users even, and we focus on the pain. Like, what's the problem that you have right now? What are the big pain points that you as a customer or an end user or a stakeholder, what is the problem that you're having? and we make our objective the goal to be able to solve that problem. That's our objective. And how we measure that, well, that's something that we can define. And if we are all bought into that as Scrum Master, as engineers, product owner, stakeholders, leaders, everybody's aligned to that, then we're all pulling in the same direction. And you know, you make it visible on the wall, and you see how you're progressing from you know, through your you know, from being able to sort of showcase exactly how the team are getting on at any one time, make it live. Then, as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, you have some clear metrics of the impact that you have had, because the work that you do, and it all should come together, right? The delivery, the value, everything should be focused on customer as an endpoint, and then you've got something really tangible to be able to stand up and tangibly say, look, this is the difference that I've made as a you know, as an Agile.
How do you go about selecting the metrics? Like one of the things that very often happens that, okay, I could use many, right? Like, so what do you do? Like when you're helping someone to think through this, like what are the metrics that matter? What are the metrics that I should focus on? Also to guide my own reflection, because metrics are input, they are information, they are feedback. How do you help people select what metrics and what aspects to focus on?
Yeah, so there's obviously the difference between KPIs and OKRs, and they get they get merged
The
together.
fact that we have those two viable at the same time is in itself already an anti-pattern. But again, that's another episode.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could certainly get into that. Well, no, KPIs are hugely valuable, but they get misused. But in terms of metrics, it's really a case of progress. So we want to see where we are today. So it's, say, for example, that the problem that we have is that there are too many steps to check out for our customers. Like we're on a website, for example, an e-commerce website. There's too many steps to check out. So our objective is to reduce the pain for our users to be able to check out at pace. And the metric to that would be reduce the number of clicks, right? So that would be a key measure, a key result. And so you want to understand, well, what is it like today? What's the measure? How many steps does it take today? Let's say there's 15 steps to check out. So that's our baseline measure. And then you would set out, well, what do we want to bring it down to? Well, we want to get it down to, let's be realistic, within the next 3 months, a quarter. Let's go by quarters. What can we realistically achieve in that time? We're going to reduce it down to 5 clicks. Okay. So at any one time, we'll be able to see, a bit like a speedometer on a car, you'll be able to see exactly where the team are on the dial, and whether they're actually improving and moving towards
it's so funny
their
because
target.
we recently published an episode with Tom Gilb and Simon Holzapfel, where Tom specifically uses the speedometer metaphor. And one of the things that he talks about from his own work and his own experience is that when he talks to leaders about being specific about what they are trying to achieve and then how to measure it, he very often is faced with very fuzzy ideas, not really translatable into a measurement process, right? And I think that that's a challenge that we need to acknowledge as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, that we need to be able to solve that for ourselves. We need to be able to be so specific about the work that we're doing that we can define a metric and a measurement process to assess where we are in, as you use the metaphor, on that speedometer, right? And I think this is so important, because otherwise we fall for simple to get yet meaningless metrics like velocity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also targets are completely misunderstood as well. They usually come from above. It's like, we want to increase sales by 10%. That's a
wish,
directive
by the way,
from above. It's a wish, of course. It's
It's
a wish.
totally a wish, right? I want to increase sales is a wish, because there's no way you can translate that. Now you need to figure out, okay, but how does sales happen? And how do we measure the factors that contribute to the sales? And once we realize that, then we can start thinking, can we even affect any of those factors that lead up to the sales numbers? Because if we don't have that level of conversation, it's going to be very hard to decide even what to do.
Yeah, well, there's so many contributing factors, and like NPS is a great one. You always hear we want to increase our NPS score. There's so many contributing factors that the team cannot control. They have no.
We need to find what we can control first. Then we can work on it.
Exactly, and that's where we bring in the customers, the end users, and we work with them to understand their pain, and then we start from there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Steve.
No problem.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.